Okay, so welcome everybody, and thanks everybody for showing up. I just said earlier to those that came on early, I know that this has been a journey unto itself. Just getting here with the change of links, it has just been amazing. So I am just really happy that a couple of people have managed to find their way here. And I'm Yvonne McCoy, women's business strategist, and I hope that I give you an amazing 45 minutes of information that's going to change your life. And one of the things that I want you to know is that time is a non-refundable resource. So I'm really glad that you decided to invest some of your time with me. And I just want to tell you a couple of things. I went to lots of webinars and stuff, and I always went with the mindset when I first started out is how can I use this with my client? How can I use this with my family? Come first for yourself. Okay. And I want to make sure that you walk away with something that's usable, whether that's reframing something old or whether you learn something new. And what I find is if you learn something and then you apply it, then you get a lot more use out of it. So there's a couple reasons that you may be here. One of the things that I want to do is make sure that I help you see where you are in your life and why it may make you uncertain and frustrated and afraid of making some of those big, bold actions. And you need to know that that's normal. It's a normal part of the process. And we're going to talk about how to change that, how to break through the bottlenecks and reduce stress. And with all that, you're going to be able to shift your perception so you can be more productive and effective and creative. And finally, so that you can feel good and feel more empowered. So again, welcome. And let's talk about why you're here. We're going to do why you're here, what's your journey, your mindset, your conventional limiting cycle, how you can change that, and then your legacy success cycle. So I want you to take a minute and tell me, you can do it in the chat box why you're here. It could be, you realize that you haven't done anything on your New Year's resolution or your life has changed. But while you're doing that, I want to tell you a story. Years ago, when I weighed over 400 pounds, I wanted to walk, but nobody wanted to walk with me because I walk so slowly. And also, I was afraid to go by myself because I used to get back spasm. And so I came up with this idea that if I stayed on my block, if I went, my house is in the middle of the block. If I went up one side, across the street, down the other, and then back, I would never be more than a half a block away. And so, I was still afraid to go by myself. So I asked my 5-year-old to go walk with me. And so we walked up, we crossed the street, we passed the house, and she said to me, "Where are we going?" And I said, "We're not going anywhere." And she said, "Then why am I here?" Okay. So sometimes don't you feel like that in your life that you're taking all your energy to try to go somewhere and people don't appreciate it and nobody wants to go with you because you may not be going as fast as they're going, or you don't understand. They don't understand what you're going through to get that advance that you're looking for. And so I'm here to tell you, to explain what part of your journey is and the fact that you don't have to do it by yourself. Okay. There are lots of people that are in the same place that you are and are just looking for an explanation of why sometimes it seems so hard. So I don't know whether, that story resonated with you or not. I just thought about it the other day again. So part of the question is, where are you and where are you going? So I'm going to start first with um, why you're here. Did we get any comments about that?
Yes, we've got Chris is building 2.0, and I wrote that I'm trying to play a bigger game this year as well.
Okay, great. So we've talked about that. And what I want you to be aware of is, our life changes. And so sometimes we don't have situational awareness. So I'm going to talk about the women's journey to wholeness. Now, men have their hero's journey, and it's somewhat similar, but we start out as a maiden. And one of the things that happens and really imprints on us early in life, if you're a maiden or a lad, is that our family tries to keep us safe. So they do lots of things that have an impression on us about being safe. Don't do that. Be careful. I remember my mother didn't want me to run for a student office because she said, "You might lose." And I said, "Mom, there are 5 people running. There's a really good chance I'm going to lose." I did win though. But the thing is that's imprinted on us, that feeling of, that we need survival and we need safety. And what it does is it gives us a sense of, fear and uncertainty. And the other thing is that, we carry that forward with us. So as you move out of the maiden stage and go into either the mother or the nurturing stage, okay, because not everybody has kids, but, there's a part of us that's always taking care of other people, whether it's other people in our family, whether it's our pets, whether it's the people on our job. They always laugh about the lady that always has, if somebody has a headache, she always has, the aspirin or the thread in her pocketbook or whatever. So, we're in that stage for a while. But then the point comes, right, where we don't have to do as much nurturing. And there is that feeling of there's got to be more. I want to do more. I can do more. But where am I going? And so, the thing that's confusing is that for the first part of our life, we have collected evidence to support that feeling of survival and fear, right? So that when we get to this point, we have got like a solid anchor in that mindset. And so it's hard for us when we feel like we want to do more to take those bold steps that we want, because everything that we have done up to that point, or many of the things that we have done up to that point, have been to protect us, because that's what we were taught as children, right? And that's what we have continued to do. And unfortunately, even though we probably are a better version of our parents, we still have taught that to our kids. I mean, every time I learn something new and I say to my kids, what about this? Do you know that? And they go, yeah, you did that to us too, Mom. So luckily, they don't have to wait till they get to be 50 to learn some good lessons. But this system, the way it is now, is designed to make us small. Okay. And, each stage we may want to do something different, but we get signals like don't break out from the pack. Don't be different from the rest of us. In my course, The One Small Change, several years ago, when I was in my 60s, my brother said to me, "You've never been right since you were an exchange student." I mean, that was when I was 16, in that mindset. And so it's hard for us when we feel like we want to do more to take those bold steps that we want, because everything that we have done up to that point, or many of the things that we have done up to that point, have been to protect us, because that's what we were taught as children, right? And that's what we have continued to do. And unfortunately, even though we probably are a better version of our parents, we still have taught that to our kids. I mean, every time I learn something new and I say to my kids, what about this? Do you know that? And they go, yeah, you did that to us too, Mom. So luckily, they don't have to wait till they get to be 50 to learn some good lessons. But this system, the way it is now, is designed to make us small. Okay. And, each stage we may want to do something different, designed to make us small. Each stage we may want to do something different, but we get signals like don't break out from the pack. Don't be different from the rest of us. In my course, The One Small Change, several years ago, when I was in my 60s, my brother said to me, "You've never been right since you were an exchange student." I mean, that was when I was 16. All right. So that kind of thing is there. And without the situational awareness that is happening, it's really hard to change it. And I'm not going into the crone, because I'm never going to be a crone. Okay. I'm just going to stay in the mentor stage the rest of my life. But there are two ways that you can change this. One is your mindset, and one, knowing what it is where you are in life. So I don't know, does that kind of give you some a little bit of a foundation that you may not have had before about where you are in life? I know for me, it was like amazing. It was like, oh, so this is what's happening. And the other thing that's really amazing about when you're moving out of that nurturing, stage into the mentor stage, is kind of becoming aware that you may not be where you want to be, but you are ahead of other people. And so you still can be a role model for them. All right. And that's like an amazing thing. Okay. And that's like an amazing thing. Okay. And there's people who are ahead of you, and they'll be a role model for you. So the other thing is mindset. I mean, one of the things that comes from that sense of wanting to be safe and security is that it is much easier. I mean, we put more energy in avoiding pain than we do into moving to pleasure or to freedom. So if you're tired and you're worn out and a tiger comes after you, you're going to find the energy to run. Okay. If you're tired and you're worn out and you had decided you were going to see a sunrise, there's a good chance you won't, because you can say, I'll do it tomorrow. Right? Whoops. So your mindset, I'm not going to go back, huh? So your mindset is really important, and it affects your productivity too. So one of the things I'm going to tell you about productivity that I just learned was that the idea of productiveness started in the 1700s. and it had to do with agricultural. How many bushels can I get off an acre of land? And then around the 1900s, it went to how many, input and output, how many widgets can I get for whatever, okay? We are in neither an agricultural society or an industrial society. We are in an informational society. We are paid not by the boxes that we check off, but the information and being able to think and get results and have ideas, okay? So that's a totally different mindset. So if you wake up and you say, I need to be productive today, and you don't, finish your big thing, you feel like you haven't accomplished anything because you haven't been able to check off a box, right? Or maybe in reality, you have accomplished a lot. So you really need to look at effectiveness instead of just, how productive am I? So, your mindset is the lens that you see the world through. And we are always afraid that we are, going to hit that uncertainty button. Okay. So I had a really good question. And the question was, what do you want to be, what do you tell yourself when you're trying to move forward? What kind of words do you use? Do you tell yourself, I never get this done? Do you tell yourself, I'm beautiful? What is it that you're telling yourself? Chances are, if you're anything like me, I tell myself the bad stuff. Even when I do something really good, it's really hard for me to celebrate my successes. So when I get off this webinar, and even though it may be fantastic, the first place I'd go is, what could I have done better? And so one of the things I'm working on is saying, what went well? Okay, so that I can celebrate and see that I've made progress. It's not always about finishing something in order to be productive. It's about making progress. So take a minute, give me a thumbs up, and tell me if this is resonating with you, if you think this is something that you can use. Okay, so one of the things that I also want to tell you just real fast is in the chat box, one of the things about mindset is that typically it's a blind spot for us. We don't really always realize what our mindset is because, we've developed it over. Take a minute, give me a thumbs up, and tell me if this is resonating with you, if you think this is something that you can use. Okay, so one of the things that I also want to tell you just real fast is in the chat box, one of the things about mindset is that typically it's a blind spot for us. We don't really always realize what our mindset is because, we've developed it over a long period of time, and it's subconscious and it's just there. So one of the things that I want to offer you at the end of this is to have a chance to talk to me and just do some brainstorming. It's a free call. And so I put that link in the chat in case somebody has to leave before the end. Okay. So let's talk about the way we normally think. This is your conventional limiting cycle. This is the cycle that brings you to scarcity. Now, the part of this that's really tricky is what happens is we have a decision to make and we start to struggle with it. What we're not looking at is that before we actually make that decision, we've had beliefs, thoughts, and emotions that are impacting those decisions. So before you have to make a decision, the first thing that you're thinking is, how do I keep myself safe? How do I avoid pain? How do I keep from failing? All right. I used to think that success was kind of a binary choice. You took an action, you either succeeded or you failed. And so what that does is if you think you're going to fail, you don't take the action because you want to avoid the pain. If you think you're going to succeed, you're more likely to do that. But what if failure was a part of success? What if you had to go through the failure or some failure to get to the success? Then you realize it's not that binary choice. But typically when we have to make a decision, these are the things that are churning up in our mind. Am I good enough? Can I do this? What are other people going to think about me? I'm afraid. Okay. So you get to the decision part and you make a small decision. Okay. And so your actions are small and your results are small, which reinforces the whole belief that I'm not good enough and everything I do is small. I can't take the big stuff. I don't know how other people do it. So is this something that, again, that resonates with you? I'm glad. Is it Deborah? I'm glad it doesn't resonate with you, Deborah, because that means you're just a little bit further. You're a little bit further on the mentor. But we all kind of go through that at some point, I think. Okay. And it may also be happening at a level that's so unconscious that it may not happen all the time, but it may happen sometimes. Okay. So how do you successfully change this? I've already gone over the fact that we do things either for pain or pleasure. Pain will make you do something very quickly, but you can't keep a change going if you're constantly in pain. Pleasure will keep you going long term. All right. But like I said, with the tiger and the sunset, we put more energy in avoiding the pain than we do in getting the pleasure. So the model that I like about change is you've got your endings. How do you successfully change this? I've already gone over the fact that we do things either for pain or pleasure. Pain will make you do something very quickly, but you can't keep a change going if you're constantly in pain. Pleasure will keep you going long term. All right. But like I said, with the tiger and the sunset, we put more energy in avoiding the pain than we do in getting the pleasure. So the model that I like about change is you've got your endings, the push pull, and the beginnings. All right. So typically we think of change as having the new beginnings, right? And then we try to go forward. But in reality, we have to let something go. We have to scale something back in order to be able to change. And the push pull, this is a model from Dr. Bridges. He calls this the neutral zone, and I think it's anything but neutral. That's why I call it the push pull. That you're trying to push forward, but you're being pulled back to the least resistant kind of thing. All right. And so there's a lot of confusion. There's fear. There's uncomfort. I mean, one of the things that I say to myself is I must be making a huge change because I've never had this many challenges before. Okay. And that helps me to get through that push pull. But there are a couple of other things that you need to know about change. There are definitely some challenges to change. One of the things is you can't change in a vacuum. Okay. It is really hard to change when you don't let other people know that you've made a change, because they're expecting you to be a certain way. The other thing is that change is with us always. You may have a really great plan and decide you're going to do something, and then something else happens that causes you to change that you have no control over. And lastly, one of the things to think about is when you make a change, there's a chance that you may shed things. You may shed activities, you may shed people. I know during COVID, one of the things that's happened is I have several friends, and one of the things that we did together was we traveled and we went shopping, and we went to lunch, and now we can't do that. And it's been a year. I mean, when you make a change, there's a chance that you may shed things. You may shed activities, you may shed people. I know during COVID, one of the things that's happened is I have several friends, and one of the things that we did together was we traveled and we went shopping, and we went to lunch, and now we can't do that. And it's been a year. I mean, we still keep in touch, but it doesn't feel the same. Okay. The other thing is when you make room for change, you've got space, and nature abhors a vacuum. And so it's really easy for something else to fill up that space instead of the things that you want to fill that space. That's why you have to be really intentional about making a change, and you have to do it on purpose. You don't change that you just do because it just seems like the thing to do. Never works. It always amazes me that when new executives come into a company, the first thing they do is start changing stuff without taking a minute to see what's there, to see what's working before they start changing stuff. And basically all that does to the people that are there go, okay, here's another one that's changing stuff. I'll just wait him out or wait her out. And the last thing is that you will have failure where you didn't have it before because you're doing something new. And because you're doing something new, it only makes sense. So the question is, do you think you're ready to change the cycle? You can just give me a head shake. Okay. So this is what do you think you're ready to change the cycle? This is what we're going to do. Remember, I did talk about productivity. So that's someplace that you can change already, because it's not agricultural industrial, that it's informational. But we can also go into the legacy success cycle, which is more of an abundance cycle. So if you looked at my course, I talked about dead reckoning. So dead reckoning is a sailing term. It kind of sounds horrible, but I love the impact that it'll have on you. And one of the things about dead reckoning is what sailors used to do is they would pick a point on the horizon, and they would use that to steer their boats, right? So the wind and the currents are not constant. and they would use that to stay on course. That's what the Dead Reckoning is about. That's what your legacy journey is about. It's about setting a legacy and a lifelong GPS for yourself. And part of it is made up with your, your values and your beliefs and stuff. But if you start with where you want to end up, what your results are, you don't think small. You go, this is what I want. What kind of actions do I have to take? Even if you have to take a gap action that'll only get you partway there, you're at least going in the right direction to get to where you want to go. And then your decisions become much bolder. And the weird thing is, when you start from Dead Reckoning, you are calmer. You feel much more confident. You start to gather evidence that your beliefs have changed. And now your subconscious beliefs, even if you slip into the old way, your beliefs are much more confident and have you a lot less stressed out because you know where you're going before you make a decision. Okay. I'll give you a really small example. Last year, I had invested in a program to put together my course, The One Small Change. And of course, the thing that's on everybody's mind because of COVID, I was losing all my clients and it was like, I need money, I need money, I need money, right? And so I decided I was going to do a time challenge. I had a lot of stuff and I was going to, and at some point, luckily, I said to myself, wait, which of these two things is going to get me to my legacy and my long-term goal? Will this 5-day challenge do it, or will doing my course do it? And luckily I made the decision that the course was the thing that was going to do it and that I needed to put my energy into that, right? Because very shortly after that, we went into shutdown and my course was going to be gain an hour a day. And at that point, everybody had more hours than they knew what to do with. So probably I would have put a lot of energy in that. Nobody would have showed up. I would have done a terrible job on my course. And I would have not been in alignment with where I wanted to go. So does that make any sense to anybody? Have you ever had situations where you have actually made decisions where you've had that long-term idea in place and saw that you got different results? I think we do it occasionally. It's kind of like when you have that flash of inspiration and you come up with something creative. One of the things that I just learned is that most creative things really do not happen in a flash. They really come from the things that and you've known them for a long time. And at some point, you kind of shake the puzzle and the pieces fall into place. It's not like you really invented anything overnight. It's kind of like it was there. But that flash seems so amazing. I mean, because I've had those. This flash seems so amazing. You're like, oh, I want this all the time, And so this is a way to kind of get this all the time and feel so much more confident. And the thing that's so amazing to me is, one of the examples I give is we put a lot of time and energy planning on, let's say, where we're going for vacation. But if you left on a vacation and someplace along the line you made a wrong turn, you would not pull over and say, I made a mistake. I don't deserve to go on vacation. I'm going home. What you would say to yourself is, let me look at this. Let me see how I can fix this and keep going. And that's what having Dead Reckoning and having a legacy mindset will do for you. It will keep you going. It will make you more confident. It will make you feel better. So there are, a couple of things I guess that I would add. This is one of the things that I really learned when I had to lose weight. My GPS for losing weight was, I knew I had to lose weight. I knew I had to do it for a medical reason. I mean, the doctors had told me. But the reason I did it was my first grandchild was coming. And I wanted to be an active grandmother. And so that was the thing that kept me going when I didn't want to do certain things. When I wanted to finish eating that box of cookies, I would say, okay, is this going to get me closer to being active with my grandkids? Right? And I might have had one cookie, but I didn't eat the whole box like I would have before. So this could be applied both to your business and to your personal life. And I think that when you have models that work in both your business and your personal, it makes the models work much better for you because you don't have to think about switching over. You're using the same thing. Andre, you told me an interesting story once about kind of waiting and kind of like not making a decision. And a year later when you did it.
Yeah. It was when I was early in my business, there was this one piece of knowledge that I needed that I didn't have. And there was somebody who had this little it was actually a book, but it was an ebook and it was $100. And I kept, to me, like $100 at that time seemed like a big amount of money to pay for a book. And so I spent a year like looking at YouTube, looking at blog posts. The guy who had this book had some free teleseminars. This was before webinars. And I spent a year spinning my wheels before I finally made the decision to spend the $100 and buy the book. And within just a couple of weeks, I made this big leap forward because finally I had that piece of knowledge that I was missing. And I really do think it was, you know, like what you were saying about the limiting beliefs. I was so focused on the money, I wasn't thinking about where that money was going to get me. And I often think about that when I'm making decisions in my business now, is like, think about what's the outcome, not what's this, you know, this little piece of money that might be spent.
The thing that's holding you back, that you know, that bottleneck or that blind spot. So I want to give you really fast, I want to give you a little model, and I call how to make learning last, LAST. So it stands for learning, apply, share, and trigger. So as we're going through this, I hope you will write down something that you learned, some aha that you know, or some different perspective that you came up with. And I hate like one and done. So I want you to take a minute now and also think about where you think you can apply this, both in your business and in your personal life. And then once you have an idea and you share it, it tells you two things. One is that you're excited that you learned it, because whenever I learn something, I can't wait to tell somebody else about it.
Yvonne, can you repeat what the LAST stands for?
Yes, it stands for, L stands for learning, A stands for apply, S stands for share, and T stands for trigger. So when you learn something, you know, you learn something, and then you have to see how you can apply it. And then when you share it, you know, for me, it's a sign that I'm really excited about it. But just telling somebody else helps you to clarify it for yourself, you know, because they'll ask you questions and you'll say, well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I got to do this, that, and the other. But probably the piece that I think that's forgotten is the trigger. And the trigger is, where else can I use this? Okay. Where else can I use this information? Because if you don't kind of set that up ahead of time, when you get to that situation, you won't recognize it. So, I mean, my philosophy basically is I like to come up with strategies and things that um, people can remember in their head. I mean, when I was a manager for a company, I would go to these, you know, to these trainings, and I'd say, this is a really good idea. But when I got into problems, it was like, what book is this in? You know, what binder is this in? Who said this? And I could never find it. So if you can remember it, you can use it. I think if you can't remember it, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to use it. So that's what I want you to do with what you got today. Write down one thing that you learned, see how you're going to apply it. See how you're going to apply it. Think about who you're going to share it with. And then what are the situations that are going to trigger you to use it again? Okay. And that's going to be when you learn something, you know, you learn something, and then you have to see how you can apply it. And then when you share it, you know, for me, it's a sign that I'm really excited about it. But just telling somebody else helps you to clarify it for yourself, you know, because they'll ask you questions and you'll say, well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I got to do this, that, and the other. But probably the piece that I think that's forgotten is the trigger. And the trigger is, where else can I use this? Okay. Where else can I use this information? Because if you don't kind of set that up ahead of time, when you get to that situation, you won't recognize it. So, I mean, my philosophy basically is I like to come up with strategies and things that people can remember in their head. I mean, when I was a manager for a company, I would go to these, you know, to these trainings, and I'd say, this is a really good idea. But when I got into problems, it was like, what book is this in? You know, what binder is this in? Who said this? And I could never find it. So if you can remember it, you can use it. I think if you can't remember, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to use it. So that's what I want you to do with what you got today. Write down one thing that you learned, see how you're going to apply it. See how you're going to apply it. Think about who you're going to share it with. And then what are the situations that are going to trigger you to use it again? Okay. And that's going to be helpful when we get to, what do you want to see how you're going to apply it. Think about who you're going to share it with. And then what are the situations that are going to trigger you to use it again? Okay. And that's going to be helpful when we get to what do you want to change? Okay. Do you want to look at, your journey about where you are now, what kind of situation you're in now, what kind of, how do you want to go forward? Do you want it to be, do you want to feel more confident in your life just overall? Do you want to just have more situational awareness? And change is hard by itself. I mean, and that's one of the reasons that I've decided that starting in June, I'm going to put together a mastermind on productivity that people can come and help each other and get a sense of how they can make change that they want to in their business and in their personal life. You will see in one of the reasons I like the mastermind is because you don't have to do it alone. You get all this other help. Do you want to change your mindset? Right? Whether it's your mindset about productivity, whether it's your mindset about yourself, when you are aware of where you are in your journey, that has a lot, that can be really helpful in terms of saying what's going on, right? Just stepping back and, not that, here's the catch 22. First of all the experiences that you've had through your life have made you the wonderful person that you are, right? And you have an incredible amount of unique gifts that have come from the journey that you've gone through. And yet, there's still more. Okay. One of the things that tickled me was about 2 years ago, I did a survey of my clients. And I was like, it was really short, but the thing was, I was like, why do you like working with me? And the thing that was like very strange to me is, I have an MBA, I know all these business strategies, I have all these, and almost to a person, they said, you keep me calm so I can do stuff. And I was like, calm? I mean, but what I realized is I had a kind of rough childhood. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It just was had a lot of contention in it. And so when I talk to my brothers and sister about this, they go, "Yeah, people say that about us too." So the experiences that you've had, good, bad, or indifferent, make you the unique person that you are. That make you the absolute right mentor for a certain group of people. Okay, and so we're not talking about change to fix you because there's nothing wrong with you. We're talking about change so that you can have a bigger legacy and a bigger impact. Does that resonate with anybody? Give me a head shake. You know that you're meant for more. I think so too. All right. I want to make sure that I have some time if anybody has any questions. So are we going to go ahead? I made it. So the question is, will the legacy mindset work for you? Absolutely. And this is why. One is that it's personal. It's yours, right? It's not somebody else's. Your GPS is, you set it for yourself. It's not somebody else has said you should do this. It's something that is important to you. The other thing is it gives you a different way. And as you start to have more success as you do this, you're going to. So the question is, will the legacy mindset work for you? Absolutely. And this is why. One is that it's personal. It's yours, right? It's not somebody else's. Your GPS is, you set it for yourself. It's not somebody else has said you should do this. It's something that is important to you. The other thing is it gives you a different way. And as you start to have more success as you do this, you're going to become more confident. I think that I use this picture, one, because I love water. I think that probably where you are now is, you have an idea of what you can be that's above the water, but you don't know what's under the water that's slowing you down, that you haven't had a chance to look at. Okay. And that's why I think that that working in groups is such a great thing. That's why I'm so excited about the mindset that's coming up. That you can have other people that are working on the same kinds of things that you're working on, whether it's their business, whether it's productivity, whatever the case may be, and they can help you see what's under the water that you would like to have a better idea about and what you want to change. The other thing I think is that there's something really wonderful about being helped to be able to help somebody else, that you don't have to do it alone, that you're not like the odd man out. You are going for making changes. And I think probably one of the hardest questions somebody said to me was, what is the cost of not changing? And I'm not talking about just money. Okay. There are lots of costs that come into it. So, I mean, obviously, if you're in business, but the other thing has to do with the quality of your life. It has to do with the way that you feel every day, that you're excited to go forward. you're going to have a mindset anyway. We are just going to actually focus it and make it work better for you. All right. And that's the reason that I think that a mastermind is a wonderful thing. So let me do this because it is, I want to make sure that I take care of your time. So what I want to do is I'm going to open it up. If anybody has any questions, let's stick them in the chat box. Or Andre, can you unmute everybody?
Can I go?
Sure.
All right, it's Deborah. I really like the last definitions. That really spoke to me. Because we're constantly buffing up what we know. We're constantly adding into what we're interested in, and it's all learning. Even our daily experiences are all learning. And I really like that whole concept of the last. The other thing is I love your approach to failure. That's one of my core pieces, is teaching people how to celebrate failure, because every time you fail, that means you're one step closer to success.
Exactly.
And that's a way to measure and gauge what needs to be done next. I mean, I look at it, instead of a wall, as more like a speed bump that gives you, on a skateboard, take off now. And I really want to thank you for presenting that concept, so that I'm not shouting in the dark anymore.
This is, just so you know, this is my mantra that I used when I was losing weight. And I have to say, I had a lot of business models and strategies, and then I kind of transferred them over and said, if I could do these things in business, why can't I do these in my personal life? How can I adapt them? And so my mantra is, it doesn't matter how many times you fall down, it only matters how many times you get up, and how.
Absolutely.
And then I added how fast, because if you, like when I was losing weight, if I had a setback and it took me a year to get started, it was going to take me forever to change. But if I could restart myself on the next meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had learned a lesson, and it wasn't such a huge failure. So that's my, and every day is a matter of doing stuff and failing. And like I said to people who came early, I cannot believe the things that have gone wrong to get to this webinar. I mean, it has just been amazing. And the funny part of it is, part of what happened was I had grown enough to know that I needed to check the link before the webinar, which is why I discovered it didn't work and had to set up
Right.
another one. And so that brought up a whole nother set of challenges, So I just had to laugh. I just said, if anybody shows up, it'll be a miracle. But I have learned, and I have gotten other things, I have learned things, and because I'm growing, I have more challenges, and that's exciting. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I like your take on I use the thing of speed bump too, but I didn't think of it in terms of the speed bump is going to set you sailing. It's,
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Thank you. My mantra that I use is, no more some days, now is now, because all you've got is now. Everything that went before is past. I don't care how you spell it, whether you spell it P-A-S-T or P-A-S-S-E-D, it's gone. There's not one thing you can do to change it. But what you can do is start from this particular nanosecond and move forward,
Yes.
because that's all that matters.
And just to add to that, the thing that I just read recently is, when you're doing your mantras, or, so the first question is, what are you telling yourself? Right? When you talk to yourself, what are you telling yourself? Because that's the thing that's grinding you down. So make sure you're telling yourself good, positive things. But this article said you can get even more power out of the positive things that you're telling yourself by using your name. So now I'm going to start saying, Yvonne, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to make sure I don't move my lips when I say it, so people don't think I'm crazy, talking to myself. Thank you so much, Deborah. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add? Andre, I see your finger moving. I don't know.
We've got a raised hand, Dr. Mish.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I would like if you can put back on, first of all, beautiful presentation. Thank you very much. I would like if you could put back the legacy success cycle.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
So what was it that caught your attention on that you wanted to see it again?
Well, first I was writing it down, and then you moved it, so I could not ask my questions. So as soon as I'm able, I will come back to you on that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Chris, I'm just going to ask you, I saw you shake your head several times if you have something that you want to ask or add.
If it'll let me unmute.
Yeah.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
This was this is one of those webinars where like you get all the information and you get it all like really fast. So I'm going to have to go back and read over my scribbles and try and translate them.
Okay, so this is a good place for me to say this. In the chat, I put my my feedback link. And one of the things that I want to do is if there's something you want more information about, or you want to talk over something, the link is there. You should go there now and book a call. It's a free call, because there was a Harvard article that said you can't do problem solving alone. It's the one skill that you have to do with somebody else.
This is one of those webinars where like you get all the information and you get it all like really fast. So I'm going to have to go back and read over my scribbles and try and translate them.
Okay, so this is a good place for me to say this. In the chat, I put my my feedback link. And one of the things that I want to do is if there's something you want more information about, or you want to talk over something, the link is there. You should go there now and book a call. It's a free call, because there was a Harvard article that said you can't do problem solving alone. It's the one skill that you have to do with somebody else. Okay. And so I want to help you with that. And I want to help you kind of get to that problem solving place where you can start to think about how you can implement the things that you heard in the webinar. Deborah Cook, you came in late, but I would love to hear if you're able to take away something from what you heard.
Sorry, I'm in the car, so I'm not able to. Sorry, I'm in the car, so I'm not able to turn my camera on. But I just appreciated the idea of thinking about how decision making has to be done with somebody else, and that's one of the skills that we have to do with someone, and then being able to really think through what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So it's been a good. I'm sorry I came in late, but what I did hear was great.
Well, one of the things, I'm going to tie up kind of the loose ends. One of the things that I think is really important is that we all have blind spots. We all have bottlenecks. And sometimes it's really amazing that, when somebody can help you identify that, it is really amazing. And you go, oh, so this was the problem. I mean, you were looking right at it and didn't see it. So let me just tell you this, this other thing. That's the reason I'm so excited about the mastermind, is because it's going to be a group of people. So the mastermind, I haven't given it a name yet, but I will shortly. Right now, I'm just calling it the Productivity Mastermind. But a mastermind is a group that offers a combination of brainstorming, education, peer accountability, and support in a group so that you can sharpen your business and personal skills. And one of the things that happens is the people in the mastermind, the members, are going to help you to challenge you to get to your goals, and more importantly, really do them in a way that's aligned with what you said. And so, it's going to give you different perspectives. It's going to you're going to have to be able to say what you want out loud, because sometimes we keep it in our head so it doesn't seem real. You get to leverage the talents of the peers. You develop problem solving skills and communication skills. And for a lot of us, it's just nice to be with a group of like-minded people that are trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. I mean, I know that, several years ago, my husband retired. And so, he was like, let's go do this, let's go here. And I'm like, honey, I'm working. And so he was like, well, wait, how did that happen? So, I want you to think about how important your take on your work is, and how you can have a bigger impact by working with other people, so that you can have bigger goals, you can have bolder decision making, you can have accountability, and know that one size doesn't fit all. I mean, you can't change everything in your life at the same time, I don't think. But one change that you make will affect. Think about how important your take on your work is, and how you can have a bigger impact by working with other people, so that you can have bigger goals, you can have bolder decision making, you can have accountability, and know that one size doesn't fit all. I mean, you know, you can't change everything in your life at the same time, I don't think. But one change that you make will affect everything else in your life. You know, I often, this shows you how old I am. I say this is kind of like a waterbed. It's a closed system. You push it in one place and it moves stuff around every place else. Okay. And with change comes unexpected consequences. So when you're in a group, you've got somebody to help you and you've got a safety net to catch you. And like I said, what is it going to cost you if you don't do that? So just a quick review. I hope you wrote down what you learned, how you're going to apply it, how you're going to share it, and more importantly, how you're going to trigger it so that when you come in, when you need it, it will come to the forefront of your brain so that you can do it. I know one coach who says, when I walk into a room and I come through a doorway, I say, I'm here to serve. And that's how he triggers his mindset. How are you going to trigger your learning so that you have several situations that where you're going to use it? So I want you to take away some action. I hope that you've overcome some inertia, and that can start with setting up a call with me so that I have a chance to help you keep going. And I will definitely let you know more about the mastermind. It's for 3 months. It'll run for 3 weeks, not 3 weeks. Try that again. It will run for 3 months. There'll be 2 group calls and 1 individual call. And I think it's going to be fabulous. That's just me. So this is my favorite saying. When I first started changing, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And I think that's true. When people say, I thought about you, or I thought about what you told me, my first reaction is, oh God, what did I say? Do you know? So I think we have an impact on people, whether we want to or not. And so our job is to make sure that we're having the impact that we want to have. So it is our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? And everybody deserves that feeling. So that's what I had to share today. I have enjoyed sharing it with you. And like I said, I can't get myself up on the screen, which is pretty bad, right? Oh, well. I've enjoyed sharing it with you, and I hope that you came away with something that you can use. So I will stay here for just a minute. I'm going to turn off the recording. I've enjoyed sharing it with you, and I hope that you came away with something that you can use.